All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Back to Tomboy Official. Short episode talking about economics, finance. I know for a lot of people, this is a weird year. And I feel like with the, things kind of adding up, I can't really give financial advice, but I would just say, try to focus on, if you have financial goals, and focus on, where the spending is happening and when and why. Kind of reflecting on those things. Just kind of understanding spending and expenses. I know for a lot of people, they've been kind of worried. Money's tight. Inflation is definitely impacting on people. Sometimes not to focus on the negative, but just the reality of it, sometimes the, pay rates aren't really matching the cost of living for a lot of people. But just knowing, sometimes some of us do have options, right? Which may not include working 3 or 4 extra jobs or working before work or working after work. Like sometimes there are options. It might just be hard to know what those look like. It might just take some time to get into things. But sometimes there are options. And so, sometimes it just takes sitting down, figuring out what the options look like, and determining, do I want to get a different job that might pay more? Is it a comfort thing? Is it a fear to move to a different work environment? Is it a comfort of just like, well, I know this job, so learning a brand new one is maybe a little more of a burden. It's gonna take some stress and some extra ways of like managing that stress and the new environment and everything, versus staying put where what to expect. If you're not going to get a better pay rate, if you're not going to get a lower level of stress, sometimes there are changes that can be made. And sometimes the way I see it is, there's discomfort in change. There's also discomfort in staying put. So it's kind of like, often it's easy to focus on how uncomfortable change can be. But sometimes, we start looking towards change because, we're uncomfortable. And so it's like, well, if I'm already uncomfortable, then, why not consider something different? And sometimes it is sticking things out, it might get better. Sometimes it's just a season that's just rough and rocky. But with holidays coming up, I know for a lot of people, luckily not for myself, luckily I don't really have too much pressure with, gift giving, spending on other people, that kind of thing. I'm pretty grateful that my family is pretty understanding that, we're not really too enticed by the consumerism of this time of year. But it can definitely be a burden. Like if you think about how much you might spend, even if you get a $10 gift, I don't know what $10 buys nowadays, but even if you get a $10 gift of something that's not really a necessity for some other person, like you're not getting them food, you're not getting them transportation, you're not getting like some kind of educational or clothing materials or something like that might be immediately needed, It's in a way, yes, it shows, that you love them, that you care, but at the same time, sometimes it's like a bit of an excess expense. And a lot of times, showing that you care doesn't have to be an excess expense. You can keep it cheap, you can keep it simple. Not everybody needs to have like the newest iPhone or, all those kind of things. And I know it's definitely a lot of pressure, especially for people who might have kids, teens, people in their 20s that they're shopping for, or parents, or if you're going to like a family party, you're dating someone and, you might want to impress the parents and be like impressing people by the type of gift that you give. There's a lot of pressure towards that. And so trying to align kind of actions with values, maybe not falling into the pressure. If people are really so consumed by focusing on how expensive a gift was that they witnessed somebody giving and want to judge them on the gift or whatever. I mean, some environments are like that, but that's maybe not the best, healthiest attitude to have in a holiday environment. It's just like trying to show off and compete, and impress people. I feel like with the economy as it is, a lot of people this year are gonna probably look towards alternative things. Some things can be, spending time together. It can be simple stuff, take your family on a drive, go to the beach at sunset, take some nice photos, make some nice memory type of a picture, print it out, give somebody a really nice heartfelt keepsake, kind of a very beautiful photograph of them in nature, with the family in nature, and think of some kind things to write on there. I mean, it might sound silly, but it's like, people knowing that you're like creating this like time of togetherness and creating a memory together, maybe even making like a ritual of some form, that people can do during the holidays, something that you might keep up every year. That might go further than buying the newest whatever, whatever the newest thing is, that is going to be obsolete eventually anyways, most of the time. And most of the things that people tend to purchase for others, they could purchase for themselves, right? And yes, it is a nice gesture, but I think a lot of times we do tie a lot of the pressure and the seasonal, like idea and just the kind of ritual of it, the tradition of, having to spend so much. Like, not that everything's going to be able to be free, but sometimes it's like, like for me, I know I'm a terrible gift giver, just because usually the stuff that I would think of to give somebody doesn't really exist on the market in a way that I can like get it easily. Like, I'll think of something that's like for example, my sister's in the photography, and so if there was some type of a kind of a like a camera, not necessarily like a case, but like kind of like a strap, or like a harness for your camera or something, for like running or action, or she likes to do trail running and hiking and stuff like that, and like different stuff like that. And like where it's like, somebody would probably use this thing, something more tailor-made, almost Etsy type of product, that usually is where my mind goes. And usually they, the stuff that's made it doesn't really, the stuff that I'm thinking of doesn't really exist. Now, with all the white labeling and kind of branding that people do lately through companies in China and drop shipping online and stuff like that, like I've noticed that there are kind of products like that people either replicate a lot of the popular stuff and it's cheaper that way, or if it's not being replicated, if it's being like created, you know, or if you can like find someone to create it for you, that's kind of more my style. But I do realize that the things I would want to buy people don't really exist. The people I'm usually buying things for, if they really wanted that thing, they would have bought it by now. I rarely have situations come up nowadays where it's like somebody was really wanting something that they either didn't buy because they couldn't afford it, or they really wanted or needed something that they couldn't really purchase. They just haven't purchased it. That's more so what I've noticed. Somebody hasn't purchased something. And again, if it's going to be like something in excess, like not meaning that like you're buying somebody like diamonds or pearls or something excessive like that, but I mean just like some extra thing that is going to sit on the shelf for weeks and months and never really get used, and either be like a decoration or something. It's like I feel like most of us have so many things in our lives anyways that the consumerism isn't really a necessity. The reason why I say that is like, if you miss the mark, right? So say, for example, if people celebrate Christmas, for example, and you purchase something and give the gift on December 23rd, or you give the gift on December 26th, it almost feels like it's lost some value just because the day is different. So I notice when I start thinking like that, like, okay, like if it seems less valuable on a different day, then it might just be the hype of the holiday itself, getting something special on that day, and then otherwise, nobody really cares. And yes, that is valuable. That is an important experience to have every year with people. I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, for people who might be feeling the economic pressure of this time of the season, and in this year in particular, with people, Americans having higher credit card debt than almost ever before, I would encourage people, maybe don't go into debt for this holiday. Don't extend yourself too much in a way that you can't really afford to do. For myself, I'm going to be doing more like traveling around to spend time with certain people. That's going to be more important to me, to kind of get to see certain friends and hang out together and stuff. That's kind of more my vibe than buying a whole bunch of stuff for a whole bunch of people. I mean, my immediate family should probably get gifts, and it's probably not gonna cost a lot, and it's gonna be practical stuff. I try to keep my gifts pretty practical so that at least I know people are using them. It might be a little boring, but it's like, hey, I know you're gonna actually use this, so it's not a waste of money. But I feel like a lot of times, it's important not to waste money. It's important not to be pressured into feeling like you have to give something super expensive. I think it leads to a lot of holiday stress and depression and anxiety. A little bit of like, oh, maybe the person didn't react the way that I wanted, or maybe they weren't as excited, or maybe they were kind of like multitasking and somebody else was like getting their attention while they were like opening my gift, and they kind of just like saw it and like put it to the side. Or like even after the holiday, I noticed that they're not even using the thing. It's like just sitting in the box in the same spot, for like weeks, or you never see them use it or something like that, where it's like, well, that's, that can be an upsetting experience too. Or feeling like the trade maybe isn't even, like you give somebody something really nice and then they give you like, a $5 gift card to Starbucks, and you went out of your way to get like a really nice, beautiful, pricey gift, really just shaping, how we think and feel about these different aspects of these holidays. I've mentioned before how I get stressed out about the traffic. A lot of my routines are going to start changing because I'm going to have to be working around the traffic, and a lot of the places that I like to go, I'm going to have to be thinking about, okay, like once the rush hour traffic kicks in, how am I going to get to the gym that happens to be in the shopping center? It's like there might not be any parking. There's just a lot going on sometimes. So, I don't really feel like it's too hard to understand all of what I'm trying to say, but I definitely do notice that, if you feel stressed, you definitely have options, and sometimes those options come with, maybe you won't fully get what you need, maybe you won't feel like super, rich or something if you give a gift that's kind of like on the cheaper side of price range. You might not feel like up to par with other people who are giving really pricey gifts, but at the end of the day, you have the money that you wanted to have. Or you might not feel like one way to kind of address the money thing too is giving time, services, or giving the money to like a needy cause, and having that be the expense. Like, okay, like, signing people up for like a feed the children thing, or like something that you can do like even temporarily, to help out in your local community or in some community that you care about. Even considering giving to like LGBTQ plus support for maybe homeless LGBT youth, or for like trans mental health support services for people, or maybe there's services where they're giving out like binders for people, like buying those and then like donating them, like something like that that's more along the lines of like giving. If you're gonna spend really giving to like a cause or a person or people who actually are in need, I'm not saying neglect your family and friends and make them feel like crap, but it's like sometimes honestly that stressor of having to spend might just be because it doesn't really align, right? I noticed that about myself. Sometimes I'm like, my family doesn't care if I give them these things or not. Like, honestly, they're grateful for it. They're just as grateful if I give them a flash drive that has, a bunch of music on it, compared to, if I send them like a 1-month email subscription. Like, I think for one of my friends once, I added them to my Netflix subscription or something. It's like, it doesn't have to be some really like excessive thing, but it's like sometimes you can just do something like that where it's like they get a whole year of being able to watch movies. And if you know that that's something that they do, that they like to watch movies, I don't know, like I've never done too much of a like as far as kind of the stuff that I try to focus on, it's like sometimes getting out of those noticing where the stress comes from with the holidays. And either you're going to disappoint yourself, you're going to disappoint other people. Like, there can definitely be a lot of pressure, but there are definitely ways around it. Some people don't celebrate holidays. Some people are pretty isolated. There's definitely places in the community that have environments where people can be more engaged. Maybe it's not with people maybe it's not immediate friends and family, but you might have an opportunity to kind of be a part of something communal based, seeing what's out there. And just mixing it up a little bit this year could probably help a lot of people. Just doing something a little bit different that is more aligned with your own financial ability, your own, not, and I don't mean like just ability, like I have the money, I can spend it, but more so like your own financial goals. It's like, just because I have the money doesn't mean that I need to spend it on certain stuff. And so just being focused on that and making sure that it kind of makes some kind of sense. I think that can help people go a long way this year, and into the new year, not feeling too much like now I have to recover all my bank and pay off all this debt, and come into the new year in some weird kind of space where it's like a lot more uncertainty, and things might be changing with job opportunities and benefits, and all sorts of things might be changing, as they have been changing like very rapidly. And so just thinking of it like that, where it's like, okay, that's all kind of okay, I'd say. But yeah, I'm not too I'm not ultimately too concerned with being stressed this year. I mean, this year I'm mostly still focused on myself, focused on my goals, but really not really trying to go outside of the goals I've set for myself, and definitely being aware of what those are and what it takes weekly, what it takes daily, what it takes monthly to kind of stay in alignment with those things, versus being impulsive or making moves, making decisions based on my stress levels. Like, really just trying to slow things down with the decision making and not get too caught up in the hype of things that aren't really aligned with what I'm trying to do. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to buy anybody gifts. I'm not saying that I'm not going to do anything. But mostly my focus is on, catching up with my friends in person and, having some good meals together. Other than that, I'm not really trying to do too much more. Just good memories. Even things like seeing the holiday lights or whatever. But yeah, with that, hopefully it helps, and thanks for listening.